So, if we could finish about this time or a little earlier every single week, and we could get started early, I would be a lot happier. But welcome to another edition of the WWE Monday Night Raw Popcast, exclusively here on the Popcast Network. I'm a very sleepy Owen. And joining me is a very indifferent Ashley.
That's a word you can put for it. The important thing about tonight, there will be no editing of audio.
Nope.
No fucking chance.
Well,
Because reports are, before we even get to all that stuff, the crowd was actually pretty rowdy.
Yeah.
But they muted them for majority of the parts.
Well, Ashley, of course, since we've been doing this for the last several weeks, I say this at the end of every show. Anyway, let's start with the big news of the week. 13 Reasons Why, Season 2, confirmed by Netflix. Yes.
That isn't the biggest news of the week. The biggest news of the week is the United Kingdom is fucking taking over the WWE. I'm not talking about the shit we sat through tonight. I'm talking about the fact that the UK tapings are getting put on the network before the end of this month. We've got a UK title match set for TakeOver. And fucking Jim Ross and Nigel McGuinness are doing the commentary for it.
Big news.
I really hope that means that Jim is going to be on TakeOver in 2 weeks. If they keep the continuity.
I think that's a possibility.
Let's hope so. And then, of course, although it isn't officially confirmed yet, because WWE will probably be confirming it next week when they're back in America, the women's tournament is tentatively scheduled for July and August. It's unclear as to what's going on in terms of whether it's going to be episodic or whether they're going to be releasing blocks of rounds on VOD on a weekly or bi-weekly basis.
Right.
But we can be pretty sure that that's where Nixon Newell's going to be. And, of course, over the weekend, Carrie Hojo announced that she's leaving Stardom. So it's unlike Shirai, by the sounds of it, Hojo's leaving. Shirai might be going sort of, I'd say, Kota Ibushi style.
Yeah, makes sense.
As in she'll be probably part of the tournament, but not confirming to a deal. But WWE will try and change that as much as they can, I would have thought.
Hopefully people can hear us right now because we are having some issues right now, technically.
What? Hang on. I'm going to have to...
Jack Mooney Show did leave one comment before I had to restart my computer. Did ask, Ashley, what did you think of the Blade Runner trailer?
Symph! That's all I have to say. Symph! Fucking Vangelis has just ejaculated on the score. That's why there was so much symph. He was that excited. Holy crap. It's no longer time to die. It's time to get fucking excited. This is what happens when you let somebody other than Ridley Scott do a Ridley Scott franchise. Sorry, Covenant. Well, I haven't seen Covenant yet, so I shouldn't really shoot. But considering all the stuff about bloody Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5 getting shut down, supposedly by Fox because they didn't like it. But secretly, I think it's Ridley Scott because he wants to make the movies himself because he's being too overprotective. Because
Makes sense.
I think he sort of feels that he shit the bed because of the fact that Cameron made a better Alien film to some extent. Oh, and apparently there's also a Hellboy reboot coming. Oh, shit. And of course, it's not involving anybody of significance from the original stuff.
Of course not.
Shit.
Why would it be?
Why is Lucifer trending? Has that started again? Yay. Good, it has. Yeah. Blade Runner looks good. I can't wait to actually see it on the big screen, which I'm hoping will be when I see Alien Covenant, but no, my cinema it might get stuck on with something else. But aside from that, let's keep talking about that because Raw tonight, jeez. I mean, the show finished with one of the weirdest lackluster pins I've ever seen. Closely followed before it by I don't know what the shit that was. And the interesting thing is, spoilers, Owen slept through quite a lot of this show.
Hey,
despite the fact, well, admittedly, you were tired from your day out. Your previous day, all the other hours in the day.
6 days straight in a theme park is enough to do anybody in.
Yeah. But for pretty much the whole second half of the show, from 90 minutes into the overrun, there was no talking segments. It was actually just wrestling. And whether it was because they edited the crowd or not, it felt boring. Tonight's Raw felt like it was probably 4, if not 5 hours long.
Yeah.
Probably not helped by the fact that obviously one of the people that they probably could have pushed got injured. We don't know how seriously Emma's injured, but we know she's injured.
Yeah, that's a very interesting situation, especially with her just coming back.
So I've got my pad that I might be doing the E3 notes on, or whatever.
Welcome, Pedro. He says, didn't get to see Raw, Family Emergency. Both look like great films. All the commentary here. No worries, Pedro. Like I said, I barely got to see Raw tonight, too, because I'm sleepy.
I don't mean this to sound wrong, Pedro, but I wish I was at the Family Emergency with you. Because you really did not miss much. My honest feeling is WWE wanted to do a half-hour show because they actually thought that they'd have bad competition, either against the playoffs or because it's a pre-recorded show. The thing that I would do is do an incredible show that when the spoilers go out, everybody's sort of like, well, this is awesome. I've got to go and see it. As soon as I read it, when everything had finished, I was like, wow, this makes the go-home shows before pay-per-views, which are notoriously shit, look incredible. And that isn't something you'd be saying, especially for the one of two times a year in which fans outside of North America get showcased on television.
Right.
Plus, the irony is the sport they're going against was Game 4 of, I think it's Utah Jazz versus the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are 3-0 up in the series anyway, and it looks as if they're going to win Game 4, meaning Games 5, 6, and 7 aren't even going to be needed. So really, they didn't have that much strong competition tonight. It wasn't like it was going to be a close affair, given that Golden State had won the first 3 matches. It's not like last year when there was a heck of a lot of momentum behind them because of all the records that happened. Some records did fall with them, but not to the same extent as they did last year, like with the most wins or whatever in a season. So, I don't know. It didn't help that the fact that earlier in the morning, Steph, or one of the major shows that comes out of London, because obviously they're in London, talking about the women's evolution and how WWE always listens to its fans. The one thing I will say is the people that were tweeting in that were positive things, clearly, they had good experiences. I believe one of them even said that Make-A-Wish, or Make-A-Wish's UK wing, actually got the family and the kid to actually go to WrestleMania in Orlando. Which I would say I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure for that kid, it was sort of like, a moment they'll never forget sort of thing.
Right, of course.
So there was that stuff, and then talking about how she was shit scared by George the Animal Steel at the age of 3.
Ember Moon's out.
Yeah, that affects TakeOver, so it just becomes a triple threat, which could affect whatever the hell they were going to be doing in terms of the plan.
Very good possibility. We had a dark match tonight.
What is it about people being in fucking slings?
I'm not exactly sure.
Does that happen? Did we have a dark match?
Yes, we did.
Which was?
It was Dean Ambrose versus The Miz.
Oh, afterwards.
Yep.
Okay. Bit fucking random.
Apparently, what ended up happening was Ambrose nailed The Miz with the Intercontinental title. He says, because I'm the co-general manager tonight, I'm going to disqualify myself. So The Miz wins by DQ with Ambrose retaining. Okay. He says to the fans, should I shake The Miz's hand or give him a dirty deeds? And of course, the fans wanted the move instead. Ambrose hit 2 of them and left Miz laying. And then Miz was kind of moving a bit. He got up and hit the 3rd time and sent the fans home happy.
With respect, actually, the more important thing to talk about is the main event. Spoilers. So you had your cruiserweight match with Noam Dar beating Gran Metalik, I think it was. Right. And then Monsieur Hawkins was out, of course, doing another whole stage of who's going to be made a star. And, of course, it was Aleister Black. So if you do watch main event on the network, you're going to see him in action twice over the space of roughly 48 hours.
This is true.
Which is ironic. So that was the good stuff. So we opened up Raw with Dean Ambrose coming to the ring, noting that Kurt Angle was not able to appear. So that's thing number 1 that's going to piss off this crowd. I mean, do we know what was wrong with Kurt, if anything?
I mean, he probably just didn't want to. They didn't want to give him the trip over there.
Again, missed opportunity.
Big time.
So apparently, Kurt named him acting general manager because he's the only champ that's there. Thanks, Brock.
Right.
But then Miz interrupts, saying, with you in charge, Raw will be chaos. And Dean says, well, no, I've got some plans. I've got some things worked out. And Miz goes, well, I had a conversation with Stephanie that once she was aware of Dean becoming GM, she couldn't rely on him. So I am also general manager. So we are co-general managers for tonight only. I'm like, so where's Stephanie in all this? Because again, if we're trying to make out the fact that she's still recovering from all the shit she's been through, why was she on the television today? And why? I guess they couldn't have, because obviously 6 months ago, the person that they had on to represent them was Charlotte and Paige, which obviously can't happen now because Charlotte was somewhere in the UK. I can't remember where. And obviously Paige is MIA. But either way, we then get confirmation that Ambrose versus Miz is for the Intercontinental titles happening at Extreme Rules. Make a note of that, everybody. And then Miz says, why? I'm a deserving number one contender. I beat Seth and Finn all by myself. And Dean sort of doubting it, but says, look, I'm willing to put things aside and, offer a handshake. And Miz is sort of tentatively like, I don't know whether I want to do it because it probably means dirty deeds. Spoilers, obviously, that already happened at the end of the night. But then Braun! Yes, the guy who's got a torn rotator cuff is actually wrestling on this show. I'd technically say that this is a pre-existing condition, so would the insurance cover it?
Oh, boy.
I'm pretty sure this would affect, them given Linda's role in the government right now. I don't know. But yeah, Braun wants to finish off Roman for good when his arm's healed. But then he wants Lesnar. And then when you hear the word that he's going to be out for 2 months, meaning that he ain't going to get Lesnar, it makes me wonder what the fuck is going to be planned now. It means they can't do the payoff with the feud at Extreme Rules. And if they do want to push him against Lesnar, there's going to be very little build-up because it will be touch and go whether he even be able to make goodness gracious great pits of water. I think that's what it's called. So then all of a sudden, Callisto shows up with fucking pinball music and says, you might think you're done with Roman, but I'm not done with you. I won that dumpster match, and for that, you nearly ended my career. I want a rematch. And Braun says, you won on a technicality. And to be quite honest, I could beat you with one arm tied behind my back. And Dean says, all right, tonight it's Callisto versus Strowman with Braun having one arm tied behind his back. And then Miz says, you do know Callisto's career is over. And Dean says, well, You're in the opening match against Finn Balor. So, the opening match, pretty good. Miz and Balor. This is the point where Owen starts talking, and so it doesn't sound like he's gone to sleep again.
No, I sorry, I just got an email.
From
It
the
just
general
popped up
manager of
out.
Raw.
It just popped up out of nowhere. Wow, craziness. This match was really good. I enjoyed it for every bit that we got from it. The Miz still looks like Michael Pitt. I say this every single week, and I'm going to continuously say this. A lot of people are saying that the Miz really got the short end of the stick moving to Raw since he was doing the best work of his career after losing the WWE Championship. Because obviously, the fact that he's one of the only heels in company history to go into WrestleMania as champion and walk out with the title, beating John Cena, no less. It doesn't matter how it happened. Doesn't matter about Rock interference. It still happened. But this program he was doing with Cena was just outstandingly great. Well, the problem is basically what happens is now you think he'd be lost to the shuffle on Raw. Well, Ashley, you know just as well as I do, with your main champion off the brand for the foreseeable future, the Miz is still in the main events.
Mm-hmm.
And he has pushed the Intercontinental Championship to matter again. And his chemistry with Balor is stellar. His selling in this match was awesome. Pun not intended. I mean, he ends up going for the neck breaker and then the old school expulsion, gets a near fall, skull crushing finale. Balor counters it into a pinfall attempt, but a near fall. Miz gets a surprise DDT for a near fall, and then they fight up again. And then Balor ends up hitting the Pele and then double down. They both get up at 7, and then they start working each other over, and Balor hits a high kick. Miz goes to the outside. Balor hits the field goal kick on the ring apron, and then Balor gets Miz back in the ring. Maurice gets in, distracts the referee, and Miz ends up sending Balor into the ref. So he gets out, grabs the mic, and goes, "You know what? You can't allow any referee to get somebody to touch them during a match. So you need to disqualify Finn Balor."
Yeah.
So Crazy Ambrose comes out.
Of course.
Oh
Very
yeah,
smart.
it's great. I liked it too because it worked really well and it didn't really bury either guy. It was a solid wrestling match. Here comes Crazy John, the special guest GM of the night. Ambrose not looking like he's asleep as always. Looked like he was having some fun tonight, to be honest. He's like, they ain't gonna go down like that. We're gonna restart this match. And Maurice, you know what? You get to step in your band from ringside. Miz RUs gets caught. Shotgun drop kick, coup de grace, 1, 2, 3. More that we see from Finn and Miz, the happier I shall be. Tremendous chemistry. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. Although the whole bickering between the GMs was worked well in this case, but having it play throughout somewhat too much of a night seemed a bit, annoying.
Right. I understand that.
So now Alexa Bliss is backstage and Nia's there. And Nia's like, "You ran your mouth on everybody else there." And I'm like, she didn't really say anything about Emma or Alicia or Dana. So that's not entirely true. Either way, basically Nia's like, "Those nice things you said about to me, did you actually mean them? Alexa's like, well, of course. You know, you're certainly a well accomplished woman. And Nia says, look, once you finished with Bailey, I want my shot. And Alexa's just like, well, no, I can't give you a shot. I'm not the one that makes all the the decisions around here. Look, next week when we're back in America, I'll have a word with Kurt, and I'll see if I can get something sorted. All right? And Naya's like, well, if that's the case, I guess you've got a new friend. And at first she's like worried, and then it dawns on her that's like she's got basically backup in her corner, and she's like, "Yeah, I do," and she's doing the old Lexus smirk, and then we had to stop smirking because we had a match. So it was Bliss taking on Mickey James. The crowd. You see, the problem is I can't tell whether this crowd was actually interested or not. We heard the "Hey Bailey, hoo, ha, I want to know if you'd be my girl" deal. But other than that, the crowd was pretty damn quiet on this one and really not into it. You could hear pins drop when bloody Mickey was doing her shouts as if to go, yeah, you know, when she's trying to do the DDT and everything. It's like, oh dear.
Well, a good thing to say in this, Ashley, would be there's a song on an album by Ben Folds 5. One of my favorite albums, whatever and ever, amen.
I know how it goes.
And it's quite literally
Sheamus and Cesaro.
It's quite literally fight the battle of who could care less. As much as I hate to say it, that's what this crowd was.
At least from the way Kevin Dunn made him out to be.
Yeah, Kevin Dunn's editing was the reason why you had that feeling. Whether it was the truth or not, that's just how it was. And real quick, if we're having technical issues, I noticed that I've tried to load the page a bit, and it still says we're live, but it also is not. It's kind of like circling, like it's trying to load. So if this is coming out to anyone, please let me know. Like message me on Twitter or something so I know what's going on. If not, hopefully it'll be available on archive.
Yeah. It seems to be buffering plenty. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's servers or whatever getting pushed because of some live thing.
Right.
Well, that means when you do the show on E3 week, that could be interesting.
Yeah. We'll see how that works. At any rate,
streams doing live reactions. Like, God damn it! Just go to Twitch, damn it. Let us non-gaming people on YouTube actually, you know. Well, I say that I'll be just watching Twitch anyway. My participation on that week's show will be somewhat limited. You have been warned already. I might as well give a month's notice.
Yeah. I mean, this match was kind of there. Mickey ended up hitting a Fez press early in the match that looked really bad. Really, really bad. Not much to this match at all, really. Some really awkward, like, transitions in this match, too. Alexa misses
also, when Nia interfered on the apron, why didn't the referee call DQ?
I'm not exactly sure, to be completely honest with you.
And in hindsight, what the fuck was that finish?
I have no idea.
I was hoping for an answer. It wasn't a rhetorical question, but I mean, so Nia gets on the apron and starts grabbing Mickey's foot because I guess she's going for the what did they call it? The Mickey dive or something?
She looked like she was going for a top rope Fez press.
Yeah.
That's what she's been doing for like forever and a day.
So of course she kicked her off, and then Bailey did a dive crossbody. So as she's on the top, Alexa just sort of lacklusterly pulls her down, so she just comes smack down onto the mat. That might have been a pun there, I don't know. And gets the 3 count. And it's like, wait, what? You're leaving that as the ending.
Yeah.
A confusing ass fucking finish. Little did I know, even though I should have known because I'd read all the spoilers and everything, that this was the start of Clusterfuck Raw. Ugh.
Yeah. Very messed up here. I don't understand why the finish happened the way it did. It just seemed like they wanted to do something else, and they just like, screw it. Crowd doesn't care. Why should we? And then for some reason, they ended up doing the attack after the match was over. Bailey chased Alexa up the ramp. Nia Jax swoops in, hits an avalanche in the corner, and then a big-time elbow drop to Mickie James.
Yeah. When it looks as if she's going to go for the fucking leg drop, and then just randomly does an elbow drop. It's like, look, are you just doing the Rock's moves to prove that you are tainted by the blood of Dwayne? Yeah, I'm bringing that line back. Oh. It's like there's no consistency about what she actually can do. No, it's a different finisher like every week. Is she that green and shit that they have to give her a new finish every week to work out which one she isn't going to try and fucking kill somebody on?
I don't have words. I just don't. Like they need to commit on a finish for her.
Yeah, it's making her look even more atrocious.
Right.
And I don't think that's the plan.
No, I'm sure it's not. They want to build her up as a monster, regardless if it's believable or not. That's what they want. Clearly.
If she's not like most girls, why is she botching like none of the girls? So then Miz backstage with Dean checking out, and this will be the bit where somebody will screen grab it, where he'll probably says, "Oh, Triple H is God," all that sort of stuff, like they always do with those fake contracts that they know people will screenshot and bloody look at the intricate details of. So they put in jokes on there. It'll probably be like this week. It'll be like the crowd boos Roman. Or some in joke like that, even though it isn't an in joke, it's actual truth.
Right.
And Dean's like, "Well, I've got it pretty much sorted," and Miz is like, "I noticed that you really aren't part of anything." And he says, "Well, no. Let's be honest. I am a fighting man. I'm willing to, take on whoever's willing to take me on." And Miz says, "All right, tonight." It will be you versus Bray Wyatt. Remember, this was made about 10 to the top of the second hour, so about 50 minutes in. Keep a note of that timing. So next we have Charlie backstage with Samoa Joe. Again, this is the only sighting we have of her. Are we realizing that she's shit? I don't know.
I wouldn't go that far. I don't know anymore.
Well, she's still domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Too much. Well, perhaps not robotic, but just asking like stupid questions only somebody from like fucking Jersey Shore would answer. Or sorry, ask. But she's there with Joe, and Joe says, payback. Seth got lucky, and it'll be over between them when he says it's over. Then Seth comes in. They have a brawl backstage. Finley and Noble and Adam Pearce are having to go separate, bitches, and they eventually do. So now it's time for Kalisto versus Braun Strowman. Spoilers, nobody's arm gets put behind anybody's back.
So, Ashley, is he Drago? Is he Relic? Or is he WWE Samurai Del Sol?
Which one are we talking about? To me, Braun is El Hijo de Dos Caras.
Oh, boy.
Good fucking riddance to Strowman. I hope he retires. People just need to swipe right. On farmersonly.com or whatever the fuck it was called.
Oh my god.
There
was nothing to this.
The bell rang. He kicked him and beat the crap out of him with one arm in a sling, so it wasn't even tied behind his back. So, a bit confused there already.
Oh, yeah.
And then Buddy Roman's music hits. And there's booing. And then all of a sudden they shut it up and it's like, really? And this is where the whole we're listening to the fans deal is going on. The fans have been booing Roman for weeks, and you are still trying to position him as the babyface in peril. When the majority of your fans, even some of the kids, aren't even interested in it.
Yeah, no matter how much you push someone,
you can't just take the Super Cena gimmick and put it on somebody else and think it's one size fits all. That is just a stupid approach. You need characters to be unique, not homogenized and made out of the fucking cookie cutter that you do for your other cookies on the Great British Bake Off.
Sure.
So basically, they just have a brawl. There was a bit when Braun managed to kick Roman in the chest, but then Roman got the upper hand, and then the steel chair came into play.
Yep.
And I didn't notice this until I saw the highlighted 2-second segment from somebody on Twitter. I can't remember the person's name. Then again, if it's being done live, probably can't get it anyway if we're having the technical difficulties that we are. But there's the bit where Braun is supposed to smack the chair against the steel steps to make it look like a chair shot, which is obviously how they're trying to spin it to put Braun out of commission, because he's legit injured. The torn rotator cuff thing is real. So therefore, why the fuck did he wrestle tonight if he's actually injured?
Something like they're replacing. They need to do some surgery on him. He needed to have actual surgery, and that's why they're writing him off.
So how serious is the injury?
That's a good question. We just know that he's out. We don't know exactly how. I mean, he's supposed to be out up to 8 weeks.
So the ambulance match is gone.
Pretty much.
Unless
that's what it sounds like.
Right in 4 weeks, and then they just do it on the show.
I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't know if it's
Roman suddenly getting a match at Payback despite being nowhere for weeks.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be another situation of. It says he's going to be out of action after Raw tonight to undergo a minor procedure to fix some issues with the elbow. So my guess is like nagging injuries. They're trying to finally fix them before they give him the big main event push and strap the rocket to him. But that also means no Extreme Rules, no Great Balls of Fire. So, yeah, that's not good.
Until Brock injures him.
Yeah, that could possibly be true as well.
We know Brock. It's feasible that he could just injure him because even he's like, he's too fucking green. I'm going to murder him.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, we didn't really get to the spot. So, he goes for the steel chair shot, but Braun's in the wrong place.
Yep.
So what happens instead is Braun gets smacked in the head with a chair. And we know what WWE is like with that stuff, whether it be intentional or accidental. So the question is, are they actually going to throw a fine out?
It wouldn't be shocking.
Because from the way it looked, it didn't look like it was in an intentional spot between them.
No.
Of it smacking it in the head. It was just sort of positioning, Braun wasn't in the right position or Roman sort of overstretched in order to get to the right position. Who knows? So I think there might be a little bit of leeway in terms of, letting it slide sort of deal, but secretly I'm hoping it doesn't. It's like he's causing injuries to people, just like Seth was when he got basically blue-balled / blackballed as well, I guess, at the same time. So I don't know. But Roman stands tall and the crowd are going boo. Right. Kevin's clearly turned down the mute. Because we can't have fans booing the hero. Allegedly. Look. So then Gold and Truth are backstage, ready for tag team turmoil, and Goldust basically is like, this is our last chance. If we don't do this, we're probably never going to get a chance again. So let's do this. It was well done. And then tag team turmoil happened. I'm guessing I'm going to be covering quite a bit of Owen. To some extent.
Yeah.
So we
we
opened up with Enzo and Cass, who did their usual soft thing. Remember, kids love them, apparently. We're teaching kids to spell incorrectly. What great role models. And then number 2 was Sheamus and Cesaro. And
Looking
they
like the
had to
Boondocks
mute that
thing.
eventually, I think, because they were going to be doing that for about 30 minutes. Because that's how long this went. The first 4, I think, went over 1 break. Like right at the start. And then they basically, it was just, when they came back, it was still in mid-flow. Not too bad. Sheamus and Cesaro won. I can't remember what finish.
Cesaro won with a very weird-looking sharpshooter.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that was what you were still paying attention at that time. It was like, yeah, I remember you mentioning that. So then, team number 3 was Slater and Rhino, which was probably as good as you were going to expect. Meanwhile, during all this time, the Buddy Hardys are watching on a TV backstage. Keep that in mind, everybody. The Hardys are backstage. Meanwhile, back in the ring, I mean, it was sort of obvious that Sheamus and Cesaro are going to win this one.
Right.
Which they did. Probably with a brogue kick, I'd have thought.
He did. He got the brogue kick.
And then the club came out. / Good Brother / whatever the fuck we're calling it. This went over 2 commercial breaks. One of which was in the middle of the Buddy talking. So they didn't block that properly when they planned it. Because it was just like, oh, he hits him with a move, goes to the cat. Like, adverts, like, okay. So that was a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much ends rather abruptly, too. They set up the Magic Killer, and then Sheamus comes in, hits the brogue kick, and match over.
Well, not yet, because then the final team's out. And it's the Golden Truth. And they don't have too bad of an affair, but it's not going to be, epic sort of important stuff and everything. But eventually, Sheamus and Cesaro, I think is it another brogue kick?
Yeah, I mean, I will give that. Well, actually, okay. So, I mean, they actually really made it look like Goldust and Ron Killings were going to get the win. For like a split second, so I'll give them that. Sheamus worked a single leg Boston Crab. Goldust finally kicked out of the attempt. Cesaro gets tagged in. They work over Goldust. They get heat on him for a bit. Cesaro knocks Truth off the corner. Goldust goes for a scoop slam. Since they worked the leg the whole match, of course, his leg buckles and he falls on top of the pin. And he goes for the sharpshooter. Here comes Truth, nails him from behind. Goldust hot tag in. He's a house of fire. Drop kick Sheamus, and R-Truth comes in with the leg lariat, near fall, hat rack crack, lie detector, kick out. Cesaro comes in, and he gets caught with a splash in the corner, but it didn't connect. Cesaro moves out of the way. He rolls Truth up with the tights for a heel win. So yeah, then they beat down Golden Truth. Here comes the Hardys. They make the save. Cesaro and Sheamus powder, and that's the end.
That's all you ever see of the Hardys.
Correct.
on this edition of Raw after they've returned from their period away in some other company. Also, an update on whatever the shit's going on with the Hardys. Supposedly, Impact's trying to do some trademarks. All I know is that Matt Hardy now doesn't have him listed as Matt Hardy anymore. It's listed the Vessel of MMH.
Yep.
So they keep teasing it. And keep teasing it. The thing is, when they pull the trigger, nobody will want to see the Broken Hardys anymore. They're actually going to do this stupid. Because it needs to be done sooner rather than later. For very obvious reasons. And I'm pretty sure if you've got enough bloody money and there's already enough evidence to suggest that the majority of their characters sort of pre-existed before everything that happened. No. They could probably get away with doing it anyway, but who knows? So then from there, it's time for Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins, which they gave a surprising amount of time to.
I mean, they kind of had to in this case, given the fact what they were going to give the crowd in addition to it.
Yeah, I guess to some extent that's true. But, you know, a good match, but I'm not entirely sure about whether the ending was executed right. I just have a little bit of reservation about that. It was a good match, but sort of the shenanigans that sort of came out at the end of it, I was sort of expecting more officials to come down to try and stop the thing.
It was weird that it was a DQ of all things, too.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, we nearly had a DQ in the Miz and Finn stuff.
Right.
Alexa and Nia had spots that could have been considered a DQ. Strowman and Kalisto was sort of a no contest because I never heard the bell ring to cause a DQ there. You had a heelish win overall in the tag team turmoil. You had a DQ here. You had a very heelish thing in the match coming up. We had something fucking happened in the other women's match. And then the DQ if the referee had seen the right stuff in the main event. There was, I don't know whether they did all this swerve shit just to piss off Titus O'Neil because he isn't on the card.
Oh, God. I read about that. We'll talk about that on Wednesday.
Yep. That's why I mentioned it. LOL! But the match itself, it was good. It's just the way the finish was sort of executed. I understand why they did it, because they're still trying to play on it's not over till Joe says it's over.
Right.
Technically, that means that he is the fat lady. There. Proves that Samoa Joe is right. He's fat!
You said proves that Samoa Joe is right.
No, same thing.
Close enough.
Yeah, I might as well do a Steiner botch and a bloody Steiner reference. Yeah. Do you want to run through the major bits and the finish? Did he do the deal this week? I don't think he did he?
Yeah, he certainly did.
He did. Oh, I missed that when I got my dinner. Damn it!
He totally did the deal here. Some good stuff here. Normal stuff in this match. Seth hits the flying guillotine, and later on in the match, yes, he does the deal. Life was good. And Joe locks in the clutch. Seth fights out with the ghetto blaster. Joe charges in. Seth gets the boot up. Joe catches him with a punch. He sets up for the muscle buster, but Seth grabs the buckle, gets a near fall out, and then we go into the weird finish with tossing the turnbuckle pad off the top, and the referee calls for the DQ.
Because basically Joe just ran him into the exposed turnbuckle.
You are correct.
The first time sort of accidentally. And then the DQ actually came from, nah, he just wants to fuck his face up.
Pretty much.
And then it's like, it's not over. Did I say it's over? Lol, 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 lol. So then they reveal that next week is the Intercontinental title match. Because fuck Extreme Rules.
It's too long away.
Yeah, but at the same time, you've announced it earlier on in the show, and all of a sudden, midway through, you just change your mind. And then, just revealed, it's Dean Ambrose versus Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt. Just announced an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. And now it's time for the crowd where nobody gives a shit about the people that are in it until the guy who's not supposed to be in the match at all in any capacity shows up. Neville's on commentary. Nobody gives a crap about him. Jack Gallagher comes out. The hometown guy. Nobody gives a shit about him. TJP comes out. It's not even that nobody gave a shit about him. I swear I heard silence. And I don't mean Martin Scorsese's.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Also, he's TJP. Why the fuck has he got a TJ Perkins shirt then? Is this an identity crisis? And no, I'm not talking Melissa McCarthy's. Oh, it's identity thief. Fuck it. I mean, it was a pretty good match for what they did, but why the fuck we had to see the actual living arsehole of Jack Gallagher? What was up with that, Hurricane Helms?
So many TNA references tonight.
I remember they're called Impact, Owen. Oh, just it's just it was just coincidence because I said what's up with that I brought
right.
Up. If anything, it might have been more of a WWE reference because that was more of his gimmick there.
More of a WWF reference, actually.
Yeah. Wouldn't it have been 2002 though? The best bits of the Hurricane.
I mean, even when when you get Shane on a podcast talking about the days of the Hurricane, he always would refer to it as the WWF.
Yeah, I guess it was sort of on the
So
turn between
the
the end and
transition,
beginning, wasn't it? Really?
yeah, between the transition period, basically.
Mm. Either way, we're reminiscing about good wrestling. Let's talk about shit stuff. Yeah, like the amount you can get a pull down of the tights and everything, or the pants, to prove that you're a pin. You don't need to basically give him a moonie. Because that was just like they literally couldn't show it on the hard camera because you probably would have had a colonoscopy.
Oh God.
It was no, but it was that. That's how far he pulled them down. That was my issue. You know, it was that sort of. He shouldn't have pulled it down that far. If he did it with a handful of tights, like towards sort of where the buttock is, rather than where the arse crack is, I wouldn't be sort of confused and complaining.
I see where you're coming from.
Just the way he did it, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "You couldn't have found a better grip, TJ, to make it not look like it's some sort of weird PG-13 version of a gay porno or something." Like, I don't know. Which is a shame because the match was. I would say the match was pretty good, but it sort of did run relatively short. Which may have been for the better because of how much the crowd really didn't give a damn about it. And remember, this is the crowd that was all hot for cruiserweight stuff. Especially with the fact that, your two guys that are going to be in the contention for the UK title are both under 205, technically. I'm wondering whether that was an issue. Like, people were expecting more of the British guys to actually get more of a shot on the show. And
I think that
I'm not talking about the tryouts that obviously happened earlier on in the day, which we'll discuss if I can get details about it on Wednesday.
well, my question I wonder I actually wonder if this was the reason why Aleister Black was used on main event.
Well, they were going to be. Remember, the Raw guys are going to Germany over the next couple of days.
True.
And they were pushing the fact that Tommy End was going to be working on the German shows. Because I believe most of the stuff that they did. Most of the stuff that they did was more of a. I don't know. A different sort of angle. I think no, sorry. SmackDown stuff was like France. I don't know if it was France. Italy and Spain, I'm pretty sure they did. From what I remember. It probably transitions into that.
And we move on.
Oh. Sasha Banks versus Alicia Fox. Further proving why Alicia needs to be fired next week.
Well, I have a list of all the tryouts for the UK talent that were in the O2 this afternoon.
What website? Windsor?
Ah.
Where?
Wrestling News Source.
Ah, okay. Well, admittedly, I've got a list of names actually off WWE.com.
I think that might be the same list that I have here too.
Well, I've only got some of them because there were some other names mentioned that didn't show up. But from what I saw, Jan Simmons from WXW.
Yep.
Adam Maxted from Belfast. Axel Gress and Christian Turchbel, who trained under Alex Wright, that work in one of the other German companies. Flash Morgan Webster, who was in the Cruiserweight Classic, so why they weren't interested in him then, I'm not sure. But whatever. And then most interestingly, Travis Banks and Chris Brooks. Travis Banks of New Zealand and Chris Brooks from Fight Club Pro, because everybody from that promotion is apparently going there. High Mustache Mountain and Pete Dunne. And Dan Maloney. And Mandrews. And, sorry, I'll stop. And Nixon Newell. No, thankfully not Kaylee Ray yet. And then also, I guess the visa must have cleared because TK Cooper was back. Because he and Dahlia Black went over to back to New Zealand to get their visa sorted. I guess they must have been because TK was there, from what I can tell from the reports. I think there were some other people. Or is that everybody that you've got on your list, Owen?
That's everyone I have in my list. So, I mean, there could be more, but I mean, that's all that's listed.
Yeah. Of course, everybody's talking about Jörn Simmons versus John Cena, where I am. Like, right. So yeah, sorry. Sasha versus Alicia. Gotta talk about it because I don't know what the hell happened here. Alicia's proving more and more like she needs to be fired. I keep saying this, but it's like it's not working. And then the finish, I really cannot tell whether this is a fake fuck up or an unintended fuck up or an unintended fuck up that's basically going to cause some sort of reason to actually have another match next week.
I could go either way, to be honest, in this situation.
True. Because Sasha went for the diving double knee spot off the middle rope.
Right.
And basically cradles her staying there with the pin. Sort of like how, what's the terminology? You know, like the one where Ray picks the legs and sort of wraps it around him.
Picks the legs and kind of wraps it around them.
Or like Billy Goat's curse sort of deal.
It's probably the closest thing you could think of, really.
Hooking the leg sort of like where you sat on top of the leg sort of thing.
Like a tarantula?
Yeah. That's the way the pinfall was. But she only did it with one leg. And then when you got to two, Alicia sort of moved in such a way as if she was trying to position herself better for some sort of spot. But at the same time, it looked like, I guess they were trying to make out she's kicked out. Even though, because, after the 2 count, it was sort of like as if Sasha gave up pinning her, possibly. I mean, I don't know. It just didn't look right at all. I don't know whose fault it is, but it better be somebody's because somebody needs to be punished. I prefer it to be Alicia, but if it was the mistake from Sasha, then, you know, let's drum her further down on the undercard. Who knows?
So this led to the main event.
Yeah. Dean versus Bray Wyatt. Not too bad. Miz was on commentary talking about it, then went down to ringside and basically inserted himself in, had the title belt, tried to use it as a distraction, but it wasn't working. So when Dean went to the outside and the ref was distracted, Miz smacked him in the back with it. Bray rolled him in, went for the pinfall, but Dean kicked out at 2. So then he picked him up. I can't say hit Sister Abigail because he picked him up, didn't even kiss him on the forehead or anything, just did the move, and then pinned him, basically sort of slightly propping the guy's one leg up as if he was sort of hooking the leg, but in sort of a way as if he was sort of just like resting there, as if he was sunbathing casually. You know, it was the most casual pin that I've seen in a heck of a long time. And then fucking Kevin Dunn. This fucking bastard. Miz comes in, obviously being wary of Wyatt, especially because of what happened last week. And he basically grounds and pounds on Dean. Except the way it was presented was camera cut, camera cut, camera cut, camera cut, camera cut, camera cut, camera cut. Like, Jesus. You were getting fucking nauseous by the way it just kept going back, forth, like, because there was no consistent angle for you to sort of get your head around, you know. Thank God. I feel sorry if that's what they had on the live screen for the fans, because some of the fans might have actually puked up. Nothing has that nothing other than like a Jason Bourne film has quick cuts like that. It works in a Bourne film because it's an action movie. It doesn't work in sports or entertainment or whatever the fuck you call it, Kevin. It does not, you know, they don't do a cut every 2 seconds in boxing. They don't do a camera angle cut every couple of seconds when they have the NFL. So why does it need to happen in wrestling? And of course, Miz declares that he'll be champ next week. And everything will be awesome. And that's how we end, because fuck Peter Rosenkamp.
I really think it's time to put the Intercontinental title on The Miz on Monday next week.
What I'm fearing is that will happen and nobody will give a crap.
I hope you're wrong. I really do.
because that title is so flippy floppy now. And, the amount of. You can get away with it in New Japan because New Japan still thinks pro wrestling is real. I mean, it doesn't help that they obviously think it's real when Shibata basically finishes his career
Right.
by doing stupid stuff. But over there, it's treated sort of more of a, it's actually a sport. And as much as Vince wants that to happen with his baby, it ain't. Ever. He can dream all he wants. So having these titles flip-flop so often, it's going to cause a lack of interest. It's not going to be like a whole, wow, you never know what's going to happen next. Because it's going to be well, if I go to this show, the title's going to change hands. I can probably call it now. The tag titles are changing hands at Extreme Rules. If it's Aries, I think the Cruiserweight title is going to change hands. Probably because TJ is going to turn face because of how well that angle is done.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Raw Women's title changes hands again. Because it really doesn't make sense for Alexa to have it. They've just done it as filler because they need to have time to build up to SummerSlam. Because of course, if they face each other at Extreme Rules and Bayley wins, then they can have the blow off in July with Great Balls of Fire, and then you build to SummerSlam in August for Sasha. Probably. The IC title, if it changes hands, the only thing it's really doing is sort of putting Dean in the doghouse, which he sort of already has been anyway, ever since that Stone Cold podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Hell, even Stone Cold may have been in the doghouse, considering there hasn't been a show ever since. Although, admittedly, it might be just because he can't really fit it in with his schedule at the minute. But the only reason that, and we can definitively say Brock isn't going to be defending the title for 2 months.
Nope.
So that's a definitive. He's keeping the belt until at least July. Let's see what happens with the build-up, because in all honesty, I don't think you should do Brock. If you want to do Brock Roman, do it at Mania. Do it like you originally intended. Don't pull it forward to SummerSlam.
Right.
Because a Mania crowd, if you put the right sort of match on and get the right order and do it properly, they'll forgive some of the shittier matches. Look at the Cena and Bella versus Miz and Maurice thing. On paper, shitty match. The build made it good something. What I honestly think you should do is have the surprise at SummerSlam and have either Braun or Balor or Rollins or whatever beat Brock. And then Brock can have his rematch at, I don't know, Hell in a Cell or Survivor Series, whenever they want to do it. And do it at the right time that way. Okay, it's long-term booking, but it's something that's going to cause people to be excited. That was the problem. The problem with Payback is quite a lot of it was too predictable. As in, House of Horrors was going to be below par. Braun was going to look strong because of the build at the time to him versus Brock was needed. Hometown girl loses. Hardy's retain, and the guys are going to turn heel because revival. The cruiserweights, to some extent, might have been seen as surprising. That's what you need. If you want to get people interested in wrestling again, make it interesting. It's a two-way thing. The fans are not going to be interested if it's the same old shit week in, week out. I think we've established nobody gives a shit about TJP. Let him be on 205 Live doing undercard matches. Put somebody else in there. You know, why the fuck are we still doing Kendrick and Tozawa when Tozawa probably could be the one that's next facing Neville?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All that sort of stuff. Soapbox over.
Indeed. So I think that's your show. We've had a lot of technical issues tonight, so hopefully, if you're listening on archive, which you most likely are, thank you for listening and joining us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was more we could have done with the show, but unfortunately, it's like technical issues all night. So we'll be joined once again this Wednesday night, tentatively at 9 p.m. for the Wednesday Wrestling Popcast, The Return. SmackDown 205 Live, What Culture Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Lucha Underground returns at the end of this month, so that means that in June, Lucha returns to the Wednesday Wrestling Podcast. UFC, the Indies, all sorts of various things we'll be discussing on Wednesday. Ashley, where can we find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at Ash is my name UK, where I just probably like and favorite things and then retweet random things so I can actually win competitions. More than likely.
There you go.
Game with Ash, who knows what I'm talking about next week. Depends what happens in the next 7 days. Well, I guess 5 or 6 because of when I film it.
So, real quick, before we end, shout out to all the regular contributors to chat. Jeremy Mills and Pedro and Logan Burton and Acer. Follow everyone at their respective social medias. Logan is Logan Burton 10, Pedro at Evil Takes Root. And also you can follow Acer at Acer1337, yes, in a row for all the podcasts you should be listening to, wrestling and or otherwise. And Acer 5000 on YouTube, you want to check out his channel.
Also, as a cheap plug, go to New Japan's YouTube channel, everybody, because they've just uploaded, both in English and Japanese, depending which version you want, the Dragon Lee versus Kamatachi match from back in February, which was fucking incredible. If you want to see what the Cruiserweight should be doing, sorry, Drew Gulak, that is the match to see.
And of course, the Being the Elite episode 50 is available now too.
Entitled 50 for some reason. I don't know why.
We have a brand new Botchamania available right now.
Yeah. I guess the main thing to note is trying to think how to word it properly. Ring of Honor could be interesting on Friday. Is that probably time for the cheap plug for the War of the Worlds podcast?
Yeah, actually, it's a really good one right there. So this Wrestling will continue this Friday here on the Popcast Network around midnight-ish.
Well, they normally don't run over because it's a pay-per-view. So it's not like
Right.
Raw. It's like, we don't know. It might be at the top of the hour because it's an international one. It might be at 1/2 the hour because they're bloody idiots. Turns out, after listening to some of the Death of WCW audiobook, we can thank Eric Bischoff for this issue of running over. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, this Friday night, Hammerstein Ballroom, Manhattan Center, New York City, War of the Worlds, our next Ring of Honor pay-per-view podcast. The main event, obviously, will be Christopher Daniels putting the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship on the line against Jay Lethal and Cody in a triple threat. Sorry, I have to give away that match finish there with Matt Taven, but that's beside the point.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. We'll find out on Wednesday. Spoilers, I think we just called it.
Yep. Marty Scurll puts the Ring of Honor World Television title up for grabs against reborn Matt Sydal. Probably Sydal, one of his last appearances in Ring of Honor before moving on to Impact. The Young Bucks put the Ring of Honor tag.
Really?
That's my guess. I don't know how he's going to be able to
still
work
doing
both.
it, even though he's under contract.
That's what it is right now.
Is this to make up for the fucking mess that happened because of bloody the Hardys?
This is the card that's listed right now on ROHWrestling.com. So obviously, as always, card subject to change.
But yeah, keep in mind as well, Marty, by the end of the week, is going to be in Japan doing Super Junior stuff. So it's a busy couple of weeks, if not probably 3 weeks for Marty. So it's starting off already.
Like I said, the Young Bucks, so I'll put the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles on the line against LIJ, this time being Intercontinental Champion Tetsuya Naito and Bushi. You're going to see the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team titles up for grabs as Bully Ray and the Briscoes take on Roppongi Vice and Hiroki Goto of Chaos. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Adam Cole. Jay White versus Will Ospreay. Triple threat non-title with the IWGP Tag Team Champions War Machine taking on LIJ of Evil and Sonata and the Search and Destroy team of Jonathan Gresham and Chris Sabin. Craig Kazarian versus Hangman Page and Four Corner Survival, Silas Young, Bobby Fish, Dalton Castle, and Kushida. Plus, if you're in the area, there's going to be a meet and greet autograph session. So check those out. Singles wrestlers, $20. One personal item or an 8x10, and one post photo. Tag team, $30. One personal item or 8x10 sign plus one post photo. All this starts live 9 p.m. on the East Coast in New York City on Friday night, and we'll go live right after it's over. So yeah.
Yep. When we have a new champion in the company.
Well, it's
with a run or surname.
Well, it's really interesting that considering the fact that we started this on the Wednesday show doing a segment which we called Stardust Memories way back when there was a list. And now we're going to culminate in when the big championship in the company that he wants to be a big part of is finally won. So yeah, we've been following Cody for a long
Admittedly,
time.
though, that list had Liger on it. I don't think he's faced Liger yet.
That list also had Roderick Strong on it too, but that's another story.
That circumstances beyond their control.
Yes.
Jushin Thunder Liger isn't, because that thing they call New Japan.
Yeah, that could happen. An ROH title match in Japan. I could see that being a possibility just to complete the list.
We'll go that far. Christ, if that happened, that'd be freaking crazy.
But that's So yeah, we'll see what happens this Friday night in New York at War of the Worlds. We'll talk about that on Friday. So that's the show tonight. Follow me on Twitter at Suro and Disney. Follow the network at Popcast Network. Check out our Facebook fan page. Almost to 200 likes. Thanks to everyone that's liked our Facebook fan page. Spread the word if you like our wrestling content, AJ's movie content, Ashley's gaming content, and if you like Sip and Snack. There are going to be some really cool things. There will be Halloween Horror Nights podcast. I will state right now on this show, there will be 2 this year. One will be a full reveal of the entire event, and one will be after the event is over. And there is good reason for that, and I'll get into that later on. Not quite yet. So that's your show. Like I said before, we started the show at the beginning of the fact that the great news of 13 Reasons Why getting a second season on Netflix, that was revealed this weekend. Super excited about that. If you haven't watched it yet, check it out on Netflix right now. And obviously get the novel as well. And La La Land still big time out right now if you want to check that out on digital, DVD, Blu-ray. Just pick it up. And as always, in a world where there are a billion wrestling podcasts, we're very pleased once more this evening you've chosen a podcast. Well, thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone for listening. And until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.